Hello. So, for a brief moment of time, I thought I'll be like, I don't know, like the preacher of the Fantastic Four, like this new Fantastic Four. I mean, unlike what happened with Superman, I left the theater quite content, quite happy with the movie. But then it's like, let's think about it, right? That is what I love doing the most. Hello, everyone. This is another episode of another casual conversation with me, your friend Carlz, where I take all of my previously stated ideas in Spanish and I try to make them make sense in English. As far as I know, this is the only show that does that for me. Haha. So, this week, I'm going not over, but like I'm going no back is not either the term either, but like basically, I watched Fantastic Four First Steps like shortly after watching Superman. I mean, not so shortly after, but I wanted to watch Fantastic Four First Steps as I wanted to watch Superman. I was like really hyped as a superhero guy in general. I was super hyped for these two movies. And for those of you that don't know, I already did an episode on Superman, which brought me to all of these sort of like reflections and ideas because when I left Superman, I was unsure how I felt about it. Well, extra note, since then I've seen it again since it came out on digital last Friday, I think. I'm recording this on Sunday. And sort of like all of my notions and ideas of the movie stay the same. It's a really light watch in general, right? It's just like a movie that you could just put on the background and have a good time. But that, like my original impression of Superman after I left the movies, right? It wasn't the same with Fantastic Four. Um, I left Fantastic Four oddly satisfied, and I think that that is the best way of saying it. But as it did happen with Superman, I left oddly satisfied, but you couldn't ask me why. It's an odd feeling. It's a really odd feeling because, like, often when I like or dislike a movie, it just comes out immediately. Like you can feel it. Like it seethes. Yeah, that's seethes. Seethes. Seeds. Well, whatever. That's a real word. If I misspelled it, this is no spelling contest. But anyways, I couldn't like pinpoint an idea on why I liked the movie. So I kept it with me for a long time. I just keep like rewatching it. I mean, not rewatching it, but like rethinking about it in my head. And as you keep pondering on these things, you keep like reaching certain steps of the reflection which sort of reveal what you really want to be revealed. And I like it's not about being brief, but to go to the point. um I didn't understand why I liked the movie because this movie, above everything, I felt it wasn't that great. And what I mean by this, it's a great movie. Like it's well acted, like it's fun, it has great action, interesting design, but it doesn't feel special at all. And I think that was the biggest revelation I got when I began thinking about it. It just doesn't feel special. Like I've been already into this kind of like spiral towards thinking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general, right? But above everything, there are some characters which you just like a little bit more. And to me, one of those set of characters are the Fantastic Four. And you get into thinking what is about the characters that you like. So to me, I've always loved the Fantastic Four, one of my favorite Marvel group of heroes, right? To me, the Fantastic Four, for some reason, have become this like centerpiece or like this core of origin of sci-fi fantasy in the Marvel universe. Like taking aside all the personal kind of like good things they have as a dynamic group, the family dynamics and the like surprisingly broad spectrum of representation they all get from these four characters. What I liked the most about the Fantastic Four was that to me, as I said, they are this like hub for fantasy, for exploration. Like in the comics, whenever you see Fantastic Four, like right around the corner, there is like I don't know, alternate timelines, universes, intergalactic travel, I don't know, dimensions, odd creatures, everything. They are like the core of it. Like for example, if you take any other character, of course they can go crazy, and most of them has. Like I don't know, take anything. Let's just throw a dart and land into I don't know Daredevil. Of course, he has gone to space. Of course, he has gone to different timelines and like face creatures. Of course, they have, but they are always sort of like limited in a way. They all do an adventure in space. They do an adventure like throughout time, whatever. But they do it once and then they go back to whatever corner of the Marvel universe they have. But this is not the case with the Fantastic Four because their role is that one of fantasy and like or like just extreme sort of like a potential for these storylines. So how does this coordinates with Fantastic Four first steps? And that is when sort of like the clash of impressions happen. So I like this movie, even though it doesn't tap to that source of fantasy that I like from the comic books. And it doesn't, not necessarily because of the movie itself, but because of the medium itself. We know, and this is something that I've come to realize throughout the years, but it always keeps off like coming up like as a strong reminder of the limitations of this medium. And with this medium, I'm talking like any sort of audiovisual superhero elements, right? Like we're gonna see these characters now, and we won't be seeing them until like 2 years, I think, with like Avengers Doomsday or something. We're not gonna see them again, and that revelation is sort of like important because that contrast is what takes away from the group what I like about them in the comic books. It's that simple. Like the movie does this sort of like strange attempt into create the mystic behind the Fantastic Four, right? They do like this sort of like package videos, and they go like, oh yeah, before now, because this is not a full origin story, right? We don't dwell too much on it. So by the moment we met the Fantastic Fours in this movie, they are already the Fantastic Four. So they've had a lot of adventures, and it's implied that they are fantastic, right? They imply that they have done all the things we love about them. And here's when I do like a parallel with Superman, right? So you like the movie if you like the characters and if you like the comics because you feel those gaps yourself. It's the same thing that happened with Superman and the Justice, quote unquote, Justice Gang, right? It's like you just assume that they did all the things you liked about them in the comics, and I think Marvel, as did James Gunn on DC, They sort of like already assume that. They already assume that, and they just throw out these characters and like, okay, we don't need to explain how awesome they are. And when you realize that, you sort of realize that this movie, as I said, is not special. It's just what it needs to be, which is something really odd when you think about it. Like the mere fact that we have the Fantastic Four in this shared universe seems to be enough for the movie to sustain itself. And I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, but I'm saying that it just is what it needs to be. Like if you take all the things that matter about them, like the family dynamics, for example, or the characterization of the characters, it's all there. But is it really new? Is it really original, different? It's like so one thing that did happen, and which is gonna serve me well right now, that between when I did my Spanish episode and when I did my English episode, was that during my Spanish episode I keep thinking about the previous Fantastic Fours, right? And why are they either like a failure? Why weren't they that famous? And this is a whole hindsight situation that it's really unique and telling to when you analyze this picture in general, or this film, if you want to call it whatever you want to call it, right? Why is this special? Because if you think about the previous Fantastic Fours, they run into the same sort of issue, right? Like the Fantastic Four, like the one that is called Fan Fantastic or whatever. Like, okay, it came during like the how do you call it? Like the greedy reboot era, right? So it was okay. What are we going to do to make it special? So it's gonna be grittier, right? Uniforms are gonna be darker. Everything's gonna be darker, and it's really dark, and everything's gonna be gloom and boring. Okay, so that's the problem with the movie, right? It's boring. And if you think about the previous one, Fantastic Four and Rise of the Silver Surfer, they are also a reflection of their own timelines, or like of their own point in time. With this, I mean that they are like extra cheesy, extremely cheesy. But I did rewatch Rise of the Silver Surfer between my Spanish commentary and my English one, and the revelation is quite odd because both movies, this is gonna sound extreme, but bear with me. They are the same movies, and not only because they have Silver Surfer and Galactus in them, but they have similar elements to all of the either the plot and the characters themselves. And what I'm trying to do by analyzing and comparing these movies is that Rise of the Silver Surfer is like a movie that people hated, right? And like for some reason this one is not. And then you start seeing like a bunch of patterns on Rise of the Silver Surfer, for example, that you can see that people would sort of dislike. I don't know, the fact that the fantastic car is that Dodge, or like the fact that all of their personalities are like exacerbated, right? I don't know. Sue is still like a strong woman, but like she's overtaken by wanting to get married, right? And they push the I don't know, Jessica Alba's sex appeal, like that unnecessary scene where she gets this road. She's not a priest. I was gonna say this road where she gets naked when she trades powers with Johnny Blaze, sorry, Johnny Storm, and the same happened to all of them. Reed is still like has this overwhelming responsibility moment over his intellect. Like Johnny also has his insecurities about like being a little bit like how do you say, like not mature enough, right? And of course Ben is Ben, like the ever loving Ben, and has these like the obvious issues with his looks, right? like the insecurity with his look and like how he is. But all of these character traits and how they show them on their basis, on their core, are sort of like the same. And the same thing happens with Silver Surfer. Like comes, they are bad, right? They have a revelation and they turn good. Like every element of First Steps can be seen in Rise of the Silver Surfer, only with the early 2000s makeup. And then you gotta ask yourself, okay, that early 2000 makeup was kind of bad, but the lack of it is not necessarily better. So, for example, I don't know, they have this scene where like Mr. Fantastic dances with some girls and like he does this ridiculous dance, and of course, like he's a nerd, like he shouldn't be dancing, right? Okay, that's annoying, but it's a work of the times, and it doesn't ruin the character, nor ruin the movie. And the same thing happened with Johnny being extra annoying and cheesy, right? Because when push comes to shove and he needs to put up, right, and like do something for his family and be a little bit serious, he does. So if we come back to First Steps, right, it seems that nothing that they do is out of the ordinary. You just took away all of the cheesiness, and you especially see this with Ben. I didn't dislike this version of Ben Grimm, but he's awfully like I don't want to say dull, but he's really on Ben like Ben is supposed to be this like street tough guy, right? Like sort of like a I don't know, Jancy Street, whatever. Like I don't know anything about New York or whatever, but like he's supposed to be like this really confident guy, and like in First Steps he comes up like almost depressed. And we all know that the thing has had its depressing moments. We all had, but he's supposed to be like the current Ben, like he's already developed, right? So he shouldn't be that sad. So what I'm trying to say is that when I think about the Fantastic Four, I think First Steps, I think I just like the movie because I wanted to see these characters, like plain and simple. But it's really hard for me to see something really special or unique in this movie. Of course, the X factor here is Franklin Richards, right? The son. But even that was sort of like revealed in the trailers. And when they reveal Franklin, of course, immediately they try to introduce the whole fact that he's like a really important character in general, right? And we know. I mean, the one of us that read Fantastic Four versus X-Men or like Secret Wars and like the ones we know, we that read the comics, we know he's a huge deal. But then, as I did with the analysis with Superman, I'm thinking, do people that doesn't read any comics have the same impression of the character? Of course, they introduced the idea of him being like not necessarily powerful, but like, and I'm trying to cut down on the spoilers, so I'm not gonna spoil it. But of course, at the end, he does something out of the ordinary, right? And I'm not gonna say what, but he does that, and of course, you get into this really strange position of like, okay, what does this mean for the whole Marvel universe, right? Obviously, it's going to be tied up to whatever they are going to do with Avengers. Of course, it's going to be. But that's going to happen in like 2 years, and we won't be hearing anything about it for 2 years. So the only special thing about the movie is sort of like a placeholder platform for something that's gonna happen later. You know, and like I don't know, you hear a lot of like Galactus now being a character, or like in Rise of Silver Surfer where he doesn't even appear or talks, right? Okay, Galactus is in it. That is something special or unique, right? Right? But then you realize Galactus, even though him being important and big and anything, is just the villain of the movie. It's just the villain of the movie. They try to condense like everything that made the Fantastic Four special into this one movie by bringing their biggest enemy, but they knew they couldn't go that far because they don't have the time, the place, the money, maybe even to expand on it. And again, I keep bouncing between these ideas, and it's true. Like, if you don't know anything about the comics, right? Would you know who Galactus is? And here's where we fall into like a similar type of, I don't know, my comparison with Superman, right? It doesn't really matter. People now had the presence of mind with these movies to just go like, oh, okay, that's a big guy, that's important, okay, whatever, right? And then I'm not gonna say how they defeat him, but they defeat him, of course, right? And okay, so that was the flavor of the movie. And this is not a spoiler because we know that Doctor Doom is gonna be there, but like in the end, like Doctor Doom appears and you're like, okay, is this gonna be the another flavor of the month? Is this going to be important or relevant? I think we know the answer, that it's gonna be not as relevant as many of us would like it to be. And that is the biggest reflection you have at every step of the movie. And why is it so hard to find something magical or like unique about it? Because you know it's gonna be just this one movie. And at least when they were like cheesy or anything, and they had, I don't know, the classic Skybeam or everything, they sort of tried to leave a bigger impression. Perhaps the cheesiness of the old movies wasn't that necessarily just cheesiness, but it was about like leaving a strong impression, right? Even if it was ridiculous or absurd, like it was. I'm watching this like I keep using the word fantastic, but like I'm watching this thing that is supposed to be like fantastic science fiction ish, and I'm just gonna try to do the biggest impression or like leave the biggest impression on the audience that I can. Right? Even if it's with cheaty CGI or anything. But here I just didn't feel it. And the more I think about the movie, the more I think about like how unimpressive it is. It feels like everything is a little detail to make it unique. For example, the choice of visuals they did, right? The movie has a clear choice of visuals. These like how you call it, 70s something or like whatever, like 60s 40s even, like they try to make this look different because it's another universe and whatever. And like, to be honest, I just find it a little bit distracting. Like, I don't know, think about the Reed Richards laboratory, like with those oval type of like screens and monitors, like everything looks funny and unserious. It just feels like they went, okay, let's go aesthetically as far as we can from the previous like iterations of the thing, and just do something different, visually different. But it doesn't achieve a different vibe. And that's sort of like my main point. Like the more I try to look for it, the less I find it. Because when you see Rise of the Silver Surfer, the character traits of each of them are still there. And if we focus mainly on them, on the main characters, what new thing did they did with them in this movie? What's new? What's different? You see, I really want to see it again because I wanna try to look for this thing and for this like unique first steps thing that I haven't been able to see. And as I said, I like the movie mostly because I just wanted to see them. I just wanted to see the Fantastic Four, and it was well enough done for me to say like, okay, they are there. But recently, during my comic show, I also talk about the Fantastic Four, and I talk about the comic and how in the new like story arc they're doing in the comics, they're already traveling through time, like doing amazing things, and like being so entertaining to see them interact as a family, like between their adoptive children, like dealing with all of these fantastic problems while trying to be a family. That's awesome. And they do this in each and every one of these movies. They do that as well. But as I said, it's just a moment in time, like a blip that comes and goes. It doesn't have the infinite potential that they have in the comics. And ultimately, I think that makes the particular movie that you're watching sort of small. It's not boring, right? It's not. It's not ugly looking. It's not. Right? It's entertaining and anything, but it's small. And it feels small. Even though they go to space and they have like I don't know connections with whatever movies coming later. Even if they had all of those things, it feels small and it feels not special. And I think that is my biggest issue with the movie. The contrast and paradox of me wanting something so bad, but at the same time having trouble finding anything unique about it. Like its looks, its performance, like the performances, like everything is just the movie that I sort of like I wanted it to be. Is it? You see my problem? I don't see anything special about it, but I don't see anything bad about it either. It just is, and I guess that is the biggest gripe with it. I want it to be fantastic. I want it to be more, but it's never going to be because it's just a 2-hour moment in time that is not gonna come back in another 2 years. And when they say that it's gonna come back in another 2 years, it's not really that. It's not gonna be really that the case, right? Like whenever they do these big cast announcements, I mean they already did one. I think they're gonna do another one. People freak out about it, right? And they go like they get like millions of views and like people cover them and like people commenting about it online and blah 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 blah. All I see with those cast announcements are a bunch of people that are gonna be 5 or less minutes on screen. That's it. That's all I see. So they say now, oh, now Miss Marvel is gonna be in it. Okay, but she's gonna be 5 minutes as part of a bigger plot. So is she gonna have time to be Miss Marvel, to like talk about her character, like what she's been doing? Like, no. These are movies that are gonna have like 200 famous people in them, battling for 5 minutes of a like probably 2.5 hour long movie. You see? So in the end, I guess I have to come back to the main issue, which is the Marvel Cinematic Universe itself, and the fact that as long as I'm unable of to like completely separate it from the high potential of stories that live in the comics, as long as I'm not able to do that separation, I'm always going to be disappointed by whatever they release. But since it's scratching a permanent itch that I have for superheroes, I'm probably never gonna dislike them if they are not like completely boring and like, or like oddly like poorly directed, like Thor: Love and Thunder, or like extremely boring as Secret Invasion, right? And that is the same thing that happened with Thunderbolts. It's like, this is creative, this is original, this is different, but it's just gonna be like uh, a 2 hour event of these characters, and they're gonna come back in Avengers Doomsday or whatever to be what, like to talk for 5 minutes too, right? The whole point of Thunderbolts was this, like, right, the band of misfits who, uh, I don't want to spoil it either, but like they end up fixing a problem in a really unconventional solution. But is that what's going to happen in Avengers Doomsday? No, there's no time for that. We gotta go for the flair, right? For the fanciness. And well, I don't know. I guess to round everything together, I don't hate this movie, but it's gonna keep bothering me. It's gonna keep taking free space in my mind, because I'm gonna try, like, in a really sort of like codependent, like unrealistic way, try to see in them what I see in the comic books. And this is a fundamental issue about possibilities and limitations. Like, live action is so fucking limited. It's so fucking limited. And not only in what they can do visually, but in what they can do story wise. They're not gonna ever gonna do like really like outrageous or like challenging stories. They're not. They ponder the attention span of audiences that they just want to have 2 hours of something fun. That's why stuff like Deadpool and Wolverine is so popular, right? It's just so dumb thing filled with like cameos and violence and whatever, like, and it's fine, like it's fine, like, if you like that. But that annoying contrast is always gonna be there. And to me, as a Fantastic Four fan, like, I get the itch scratch, but immediately I fell into the frustration of wanting more and not having it. And I know I won't have it. I won't have it. I know. If we ever see them again as proper Fantastic Four, it's not even like announced as series or anything. Like, I even see the poster and everything, like see them all four together, and I even wonder if we're gonna even see them all four together in the Avengers thing. When are we gonna get another chance to see them? When is it gonna be the next Fantastic Four? Like 4 5 years? Like, who fuck knows if I'm gonna even be alive in 4 5 years when they come back? So it's like, yeah, of course I'm gonna be frustrated. Of course I'm gonna be salty, because this is, as I said again and again, this is scratches an itch. They look great, they sound great, right? But I'm not gonna get any more from them. And as I realize that, of course I'm gonna say there's nothing special about the movie, because there isn't. It's just a Fantastic Four, and they can't afford to be anything else more than what they are in this movie. An introduction to amazing characters who we are gonna see seldom in the following like 5 years. Perhaps they just do it to make you read the comics. But since I already do that, it doesn't work that way for me. I'm already going back to the comics, either they wanted it or not. But anyways, Fantastic Four First Steps is a fun movie. It's well made, it's well acted, but at best, it's just the Fantastic Four. It's a good movie, Fantastic Four, introducing the characters, and that's it. At the best. And it won't ever go beyond just that. If you wanna get anything special out of these characters, I'm sorry, but you gotta go to the comics. You gotta go there. You gotta go there because the lore and dimensions of these characters is so huge, it's so big that it's impossible to make it fit into a 2-hour movie. It's impossible. It's impossible. But anyways, I'm running out of time and I can't just keep trying to convince myself that this movie will be anything more. Perhaps I would have liked, like, I don't know what I would have liked. I don't know. Maybe a little bit more cheesy would have been enough. I don't know. I'm more like a streetwise Ben instead of like just mildly depressed, or like I don't know. I think Johnny is okay. The overwhelmed by responsibility Reed, that was okay, and the heart of the family Sue, that was okay too. But these are all things that already happened in Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, in a way or another, right? Anyways, thankfully the movie is fun, so whatever. I'm gonna necessarily end in a sad note because, as I said, I love the Fantastic Four, and I liked this iteration of them enough to want to see more of them. But I guess I won't be seeing them in like 2 years when they do their Avengers cameos, and maybe 4 years when they do whatever they choose to do. If any of them choose to come back, I think they probably signed them for like 2 movies already, because if they change the actor from one movie to another, like, it will be so strange. But just another show of the limitations of the medium compared to comic books or whatever, right? Maybe the problem is just me. I need to reassess how I look at these things, maybe. At least Superman had like an introduction of values. Like, the main question of Superman was a discussion that could transcend comic and the movies, right? The responsibility of metahumans in society. Like, at least that premise is something that you can enjoy every time, because every time you tackle a question like that, you need to make a point. So whatever they do script wise, following the DC movies, they need to tackle a very important question that it's always great to be answered. But the Fantastic Four, as part of the big Marvel universe, the big Doomsday thing, it's just gonna be answering whatever craftiness they do for a moment, and anything that they could possibly do for Avengers Doomsday is gonna be pale in comparison to what happens in the comics, and pale in comparison visually to what we have already seen in Endgame or similar things. So I guess, even though I like First Steps, it has turned me even into a more pessimistic person about the whole Marvel thing. Am I a DC guy now in the movies? Damn. I think right now I might be. That's a revelation. Well, sometimes you win, sometimes you get a revelation. That's my time for this week. Hell, I've been revealed. Thank you all for listening. I hope my words give you some sort of food for thought if you like these movies and these topics. If not, I envy you. If this is just another action movie for you and you can dream happily, I gotta say, I envy you. Thank you so much for listening. See you next week. Bye bye.